The one thing that makes us all the same all over the world is we just have 24 hours of it. So the question is, what can you put in and do in those 24 hours, or mainly the 8 to 10 hours that you might be expected to work per day, in order to get the sales results that you want? So within this video, I'm going to talk to you about 3 key areas that I think are critical in how you spend your time effectively. The first links to your target and the target that you want to achieve. The second is all about priorities and how we start to utilize our time for priority focus. And the third is around our diary and how we can maximize the time and slots that we have in the day to give us the most effect. My name is James White, small business sales expert. Let's have a look at the video and how you can focus on the target, the priority, and your diary to get brilliant results. So I can't guarantee you that we're going to be in a position where we're guaranteed to get success with sales. I can't give you all the insights and tips to use, but I can guarantee if you focus on using your time in the ways I'm going to talk through, you stand a far better chance of achieving success. So let's look at the first one, which is our target. Now, the reality is of a sales situation is most of us as salespeople have a target, and that target generally can be broken down based upon the year, or maybe the quarter, or maybe the month, the week, or even the day. So if we know what our target is, then what we can then start to do is to work out what we've got to do to get ahead of the target. When I was doing some training for bike rides and some challenges years back, I was able to work out that my target, which was to ride, let's say 100 miles in a day, I could break it down into 5 lots of 20. 20 miles, then 40, then 60, then 80, then 100. And the way in which I broke down the target is to then actually say, well, that 20 miles is made up of 4 lots of 5 or even 10 lots of 20. The key thing is this: focus on what it is your target is and then start to break down the activity that's needed in order to make that happen. So for example, let's just say you've got a target, I don't know, for 20. Let's assume that that figure is £20,000 or 20 customers or 20 opportunities or 20 appointments. If you know your target is 20, what you can then start to then do is to look through the month and see what available days you have. And let's say that there's 22 days in the month. You know you need on average 1 per day in order to hit your target. If you have that target in place and you've achieved some of the things that you wanted to, then colour in that aspect. The reality is I know, for example, if I'm doing a sales activity and I've got a target of 20, I know by the middle of the month I've got to get to this sort of point. Otherwise, I'm getting behind. And in most cases, I'll even try and get ahead of the process. I'll try and get ahead of the activity. When I'm doing my challenges, I'll try and put a bit more in. Maybe on those days where at the early start, I'll put a few extra hours in or make a few extra calls or a few extra appointments to make sure I'm going to get ahead of the target. When you get behind the targets, it starts to send you into a negative spiral. We want to avoid that. But the key thing to do is to break down what your target looks like and how it can be achieved. Be clear about the target, look at it daily, take a photo of it, create an image that shows you where you are, measure your progress daily or weekly against that target, and make sure that you're in a position where you set yourself expectations of where you want to be at certain points in time. Break that down, start to plan that out on a monthly basis or a weekly basis, what it looks like, and then know what actions you've got to take to stay on track. The reality is, one of the key things that I see lots of salespeople do, and I did this myself, is they misprioritize their time and the people they're speaking to. They don't ask the right questions, they don't have the right conversations with opportunities and the people in businesses that they're engaging with to really focus on who's going to be able to focus and get them the results when they need them by. So here's a simple little way in which you can start to do this. I'd encourage you to break down your customers into 3 categories. Category A clients are people that are generally going to do business with you, let's say if you've got a yearly target, in the next 1 to 4 months. Their conversations may be people you've already spoken with in the past, their discussions you've already had, they're further through the process or pipeline, or maybe they've indicated that they're keen to do business quite quickly. So out of the time we spend, 50% of our time should be spent on these priority customers. How do you find that out? You get comfortable asking them questions around their timeframes. If you haven't watched my BANT video on how to qualify your prospects, then please do. It gives you at the end, BANT is timing, and you can ask questions such as, where in the process are you? How long would it take for you to get this in position? What would be the impact if you don't have this resolved within 3 months' time? The next category are Bs. These are the people that are a bit more medium term. These are the people that we're probably in a time block period going to spend literally around about 35% of the time with, okay? We're not going to spend as much time with these people as the ones in category A because we know they're not quite ready to buy yet, or they're not in a position where we feel they've gone through the buyer journey with us. And if we spend all of our time in this area, we may not bring the business in the short term needed to keep us in the job. So we've got to understand that this time to focus on B clients is when we've done some of our great work in A, but we're then taking the action to keep that plate spinning for the future. And the final group are people we call group Cs. These are people that we want to spend some of our time with, but maybe it's 15% of our time. These are people that aren't going to buy for 8 months out. But the reality is they're important for us to keep nurturing and putting into our funnel, because if we don't put them into our funnel right now, when all the A's have been closed and we've won that business, we haven't got anyone in our pipeline to do the next quarter or to hit our yearly target. So having a sales approach that breaks down those prospects into A, B and C, and if you've got a C client, hey, that's okay. Make sure you spend some time giving them conversations, discussions, resources, but just be careful about how much of that time you're spending in a week or in a day. If you've already had 1 or 2 C meetings, then maybe you need to put that off for a couple of weeks and focus on the A's and the B's before you then have another conversation with a C. It's nothing against those people. They're great prospects, but they're not going to buy now anytime soon. And the reality is, unless you can move them up sooner into the funnel, and sometimes it does happen where we have a conversation with a C and their timelines change, then great, move them, recategorize them as a company or as a product or as a prospect opportunity. So use this as a simple method to be able to identify your prospects in your pipeline. Go through this today, pause the video, have a look at your pipeline and identify your A, B's and C's. Maybe create your own timelines and work out who are your A, who are your B's and who are your C's that you can do business with. And then look at your diary and your schedule and start to make sure that you're spending 50% of your time on the A's, 35% of your time on the B's and 50% of your time on the C's. But what I'd encourage you to try and do as a salesperson is to identify 5 time blocks in the day. These are time blocks that we can absolutely mark off as being within our diary, as being critical to doing key sales work. And that sales work might be making calls, it might be sending follow-up emails, it might be reaching out and prospecting through social media, it might be creating video messages. And by marking that time in the diary and marking it as sacred and making sure that no other person can put you into meetings or times, you're telling your team and other people you work with that those times are critical for you in order to be able to achieve your target. The reality is if we don't block time in our diary and say that that time is critical to focus on our work, we're not going to get sales results. And the challenge is, in most of the cases, and I know exactly how you feel, there's many times where I will literally go through and think, oh, I've got to get certain things done, and then it doesn't happen. When it's in the diary, when we build that discipline to be able to sit down and say, no, from 9 till 10, I'm going to make prospecting calls. And actually, as a simple little tip, give yourself a mini target. Say to yourself, I'm going to make 10 calls. Or maybe you're going to do some videos here, and you might say, I'm going to do 5 videos. Or maybe you're going to do some social media messaging and you're going to reach out and contact 30 people in that time. Give yourself some mini targets in that time block. And ideally, we want the time block to be for 60 minutes as a minimum. If you can, and it's up to you, if you can make the time block even better and make it 90 minutes, that's even fantastic. You're going to be in a far better position. And if you can get 5, 60 minutes, or better still, 90-minute time blocks within one day, I can assure you that your ability, if you follow these other 2 aspects that I've talked about, is going to give you a far better chance of being successful. The old saying is true. You don't get a 6-pack by doing the sit-ups today. You do it by doing it today and tomorrow and the day after. And suddenly in a few months' time, if you eat well, bear in mind, I ain't going to get one anytime soon, but if you do eat well, the chances are you'll get the results from the hard work you put in. So use this simple technique to time block. Put times in your diary. I used to have in my previous business a hat that I would wear when I was in the office to say to people, hey, unless the world's ending, unless there's a major emergency, leave me alone and let me focus on my time blocking. Be disciplined. Say to people, I can't have meetings then as I'm doing my prospecting. I'm doing my calling, I'm doing my messaging, I'm doing my work to engage and make sure I hit my target. And no sales manager should have a problem with that. And if they do, hey, tell them to reach out to me and I'll tell them what they might need to do in order to give you the chance to achieve success. So I hope that's helped. By the way, I'm going to give you access to simple structures, some printouts you can use in each category. I'll put them in the comment section below, download them, get access to them, and start using them in your day-to-day sales activity. And if you do, if you get clarity on the target, you know the priority of your leads, and you've then got a clear method to manage your time, great things are coming your way. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please like it, subscribe to the channel, share it with other people. Let's get great salespeople and people that really care about the work they do, achieving great results and maximizing their time effectively. Let's utilize this and let me know how you get on. Let me know your time blocks and how those time blocks are working for you. And if you're not sure what to do or how to approach these time blocks or what actions to take, reach out to me, any of my social media, and we'll give you some insights into what you can do in those times to get the right results and make sure that you and your business and what you're doing as a salesperson is taking you where you want to be. Thanks so much for watching. Like, subscribe to the channel, share it with others, and I'll see you next week for another video.